For the next session, we will be reviewing quality assurance practices in the blood service facility. I know you know this by heart since you have been advocates of quality for blood safety, but we will never get tired of discussing QA in our field since we all know that achieving and maintaining quality for our service involves constant planning, doing, checking, and making action. Again, I am Aiza, the QA officer of TTI NRL, and I'm tasked to go through this session with you to discuss how we would improve quality assurance in our services. Again, as mentioned in the previous session, we have our mission, and that is to provide safe, adequate, and accessible blood to our patients in need. And to ensure that we constantly provide this service, we follow certain standards. And as clinical laboratories and blood service facilities, we follow laboratory quality standards to ensure that we are able to provide accurate, reliable, and timely results and control errors from happening in our laboratory. Examples of standards are WHO Lab QMS, ISO standards, and other WHO laboratory specific recommendations. But for the past years, as what have as what you have known in the previous trainings and conferences you have attended, we have been advocating for a higher standard to be practiced in our blood service facilities, and that this is the good manufacturing practices standards. Here flashed at the screen are examples of GMP international standards for blood establishments. As of the moment, we still do not have existing local guidelines on GMP, and the reason for this higher standard requirement for our service is that blood products are considered as essential medicines. And being such, these products must have evidence on efficacy and safety when produced and used. So, producing the quality blood products, we need to practice good manufacturing standards. Last August 2022, the WHO had a situational analysis of the Philippine Blood Program. In this activity, they have randomly sampled and assessed 15 blood service facilities and checked their compliance to current GMP or CGMP standards. And we will try to take a look into the observations of the WHO consultants, since from these observations, we can learn to do more for the improvement of our services. In general, the WHO consultants have found that among the visited BSFs, CGMP is not observed. And instead of being regulated by the FDA, BSF is being regulated by the DOH under the Health Facilities and Services Regulation Bureau or the HFSRB. Dapat po kasi as required by international standards, blood establishments are to be regulated by the Food and Drug Administration because blood establishments are manufacturing blood products that is considered as essential medicine. The consultants also noted that we need to improve on our hemovigilance system. This is for the reporting of adverse events, and they have observed that the hemovigilance practice is not in a national level, but mostly reporting within the hospital management system. Also, they have observed that we do not have transfusion medicine as a practice in the Philippines, and BSF is usually under a supervision of a pathologist, and international practice actually do have transfusion medicine as a separate subspecialty. Specifically, these are their observations. So for facility, BSF functions are not physically separated, and pre and post donation counseling should be done in separate and soundproof room. For organization and management naman, ayun nga, nabanggit kanina, that BSF are not regulated by the FDA but by the DOH FSHRB, and there must be a need for uniform inspection audits at regular intervals. And for personnel for manufacturing must be segregated out of the laboratory hospital. So napansin nila na ayun nga ang mga personnel ng blood banks nagro-rotate din sa ating hospital lalo na't kapag blood bank with additional function. And as mentioned, transfusion medicine is not a specialty subspecialty in the Philippines, and that education for the BSF personnel is very much needed. So for equipment, many equipment were not cleaned, maintained, nor under comprehensive service contract. Thermographs in the temperature sensitive equipment and critical equipment were not observed, and critical equipment needs to be connected to the UPS, and all equipment shall be provided with a unique identifier. So, ito po yung ilan sa kanilang mga observations. And for external services and supply, they have noticed that we have a noticeable discard and substantial overproduction for platelets and plasma, and there is no allocated space for storage of goods, and incoming validation and supply documentation system should be designed. For documents and records naman, there is a need to create awareness of the importance of documentation and reporting, and strengthen traceability and liability for document control and archiving, and the design and implement an information system is very much needed. For QA needs to be improved to achieve current GMP, and centralized SOP exists but is not always followed. And equipment operating procedures need to be developed to standardize manufacturing processes, and that most of the BSF do not have a QA manager or technical manager. And for biosafety and lab safety, fire extinguishers and smoke alarms were not observed and are not checked at regular intervals. And there is a general lack of cleanliness and hygiene in many BSF. Medyo sad to say, no, but these are actually um, real observations. And actually, we can also say na kapag nagvi-visit din kami sa BSF, sa site monitoring, yun din at yun din yung mga nakikita namin, no? So, this has been a practice na. So, we need to improve on this. And, ayun nga, hemovigilance is not centrally developed. And for special procedures, not use has a lack of CGMP, and quality service manuals and segregation of working areas is not followed. Um, develop we need to have to develop national guidelines on that, which is still missing ngayon. Iba-iba ang practices na ginagawa ng mga nagtitest ng NAT, and that no BSF is carrying out HLA testing and pathogen reduction doon sa kanilang mga nasample na BSF. And for transfusion medicine naman, vein-to-vein principle is poorly understood, and developing a good functioning clinical interface and regular interactions with the clinical team is very much needed. And the need for regular training of bedside ward staff on good clinical practices is needed as well. And internal audit and management review conducted by trained staff shall be done at least 1 to 2 times annually. Hindi po lahat ng BSF nagko-conduct ng internal audits. And audit report shall be present for or presented to the management for action. So, ayun nga, those are the observations of WHO consultants, no? And hopefully we could check on it and try to improve on from that situational analysis. And also, this is nice to know that from the lab assessment of College of American Pathologists, the top 10 deficiencies they saw are sa competency assessment and the comparability of instruments and methods. So, yung mga instrument validation, activity menus, policy and procedure manual, PT, and alternative assessment result evaluation. So, ito yung mga IQAS, maintenance function check, instrument equipment review record, PT or proficiency testing attestation statements, temperature checks, and correction of laboratory records. So we can see that these are also common deficiencies sa lab, no, na we can also improve on. So hopefully from this situational analysis and then the things that we know that are deficiencies in terms of standards, we could try to check on how we are doing and we could improve on our own systems. Kaya nga, ang ating magiging objective for this session is for us to review the requirements of GMP standards in the context of WHO recommendations and other related standards such as the AABB or CAP or what or ano pa ang available na standards, and we will try to reflect on our own BSF practice. So from the situational analysis and from the deficiencies that we know, we will now try to check on our own practice. And also, we will be discussing partly risk assessment and laboratory self-assessment or audit to strategize, and hopefully at the end of the session, you will be able to plan for these activities in your own respective blood service facilities. So during the course of the presentation, photos will be shown, and just a disclaimer po, again, the RITM TTI NRL does not endorse any brand of reagents or supplies or any products. Brands that may be mentioned are for presentation purposes only, and that photos from monitoring activities were collected with consent and permission to post for educational purposes were granted. And identity of the BSF will be kept confidential. Okay, so as a review, this figure shows the flow of blood transfusion process. In the process, the blood service facility is mainly in charge of the donor and the blood unit as a product. This is the manufacturing process, and this is where GMP for BSF must be employed. Several processes are included in manufacturing, but for this lecture, let's focus on our TTI testing. And these are the required components or clauses that we need to control according to WHO GMP standards. Previously, kung nag-refresher kayo with us, we have discussed these clauses one by one. But now, review natin din ito ulit isa-isa, and we will consider other standards as well, like the AABB standards or American Association of Blood Banks. Let's start off first with personnel and so on. Last na po natin yung quality management, so we could discuss more on risk management and audit. Okay, so let's start with personnel. For personnel, we need to have, according to the AABB technical manual, we need to have adequate and qualified staff. You have to have job descriptions and qualifications. This should be written and this should be signed. And this should show defined roles and responsibilities for all the staff and their reporting relationships. So you could have here your organizational chart. You need to have good staff selection, and when there is a new hire, you must have orientation. So your orientation must also be documented. And you must have a training on quality system, job-related activities, computer use, and safety. And nice to know no na halos lahat yan meron tayong training, but not so much on computer use. And very important po pala ang computer use, most especially that our data is now stored in computer. So we need to have training din po on computer use. And of course, staff competence, continued education, staff is being able to identify information and also end of employment activities. So kapag merong aalis na staff, meron po tayong activities for that to maintain our quality as well. So again, if you have a qualified new employee, you need to have an orientation. This should be written. The qualified new employee should know his or her job description, and she must attest and sign on it. And if there is a gap between the qualification of the new employee and the job description of the employee, you need to provide task-specific training. So, ang task-specific training po should be given by the management. And after the training, before they do the routine work, they need to have competency assessment then. And this is actually regular, no? Regular, pwede siyang gawin every 6 months, every 1 year, or every time there is a new task done, or every time there is a new training, or every time there is rotations. And kapag may gap sa ating competency assessment, then we could do retraining and the cycle would go on. And of course, if the staff is very much competent, give or provide recognition of competency. So this is a good example of a job description which details the specific duties and responsibilities of the personnel, and that this has been acknowledged by the personnel himself. So, makikita dyan na merong signatures to attest that the personnel is identifying his own responsibility for the quality of our service. And if there are other tasks assigned to the personnel on top of his job qualification or job description, a document for additional designation is required to be acknowledged. So this is an evidence that the personnel has acknowledged his accountability for the additional task assigned. And for trainings, especially for mandatory competencies, records must be kept and that all of this are valid and updated. Meron kami mga nakikita na kahit nag-resign na yung staff, they still display and use their proficiency certificates, which is not a no-no, no? And as a BSF, some mandatory trainings include donor recruitment, retention and care, biosafety, TTI proficiency, and total quality management. Ensure that you have those trained na staff sa inyo. And it does not mean that all of the staff should be trained for all of this. You can assign a certain personnel to be trained and then conduct an echo to those who are doing the same tasks. And of course, this echo and the attendance should be documented. You can also check on competencies. And but however, for TTI testing, it is recommended that staff performing screening of blood units has a valid certificate of proficiency for testing. If not, yung ating staff na trained would always supervise the technician who is not trained. Also, BSF technicians must be regularly assessed for their competency of their needed skills by having regular competency assessments. Again, competency assessments are required by standards and accrediting bodies. So, competency assessments may be done through direct observations during technical work or provision of proficiency panels. This is usually done annually or every time there is a rotation in your sections or in your job. The competency testing must test for the skills of the staff, not just the technical know-how or not just the theory part, no? But it must check on the skills of the staff. Kaya nga po, competency assessment. So if your BSF do not have competency assessments in place yet, you may start by establishing an assessment plan for each employee. You could start by identifying the critical competencies for each laboratory process and then prepare schedule, determine assessment method, and assign who will conduct the assessment, document and evaluate the results, and take remedial and corrective action, and then reassess. As you can see po sa left side, sa right side po pala ng screen, that is an example ng previous competency plan namin sa NRL. Okay, so ito naman is an example of the competency assessment from the College of American Pathologists. You can see here yung gusto nila i-assess na skill for the staff, no? for each operation of the analyzer. So, very specific ang competency assessment plan nila. And take note din po na, again, as I've mentioned, competency assessment should check on the skills of the technician to perform a certain tasks. And sabi ng College of American Pathologists, you could include these elements of competency. Ayun nga, direct observation of routine test performance, monitoring the recording and reporting of test results, a review of test results, direct observation of performance of instrument maintenance and function checks, assessment of test performance through testing of previously analyzed specimens. So, ito yung mga characterized specimens. You can use previous PT panels, and evaluation of problem-solving skills. So, as you can see here, puro skills ang chine-check, no? And I would just like to highlight that they give importance to the conduct of instrument maintenance. So, very important po pala yun. One take-home message from me din, kasi we usually do neglect the performance of instrument maintenance. So, even competency assessments din po pala must consider and must show that our staff is competent to do instrument maintenance. This is very important kasi nga halos lahat po ng ating instruments ngayon are fully automated, wherein maintenance is very much important. Okay, so ayun, we also need to have a good organizational chart which show clear responsibilities, authorities, and reporting flow, so that wala pong mangyayaring micromanagement and yung mga kaguluhan sa reporting schemes, malilito saan magre-report ang mga staff. And so flashed on the screen is a very good example. And as you can see, the QA officer is separate, no, from the routine work para makapag-focus po siya doon sa pag-oversee ng quality assurance, which is a very, very challenging task and a very big task. Kagaya nga ng sa requirement sa ating bagong AO, no, na we need to have a quality assurance program in our laboratories and BSFs. Next, we proceed to documentation. So documents must also be in place for every process, as good documentation is critical. So the quality of our testing results relies on staff knowing what to do, how to do it, and doing it consistently and correctly. So we need to have, sabi ng AABB, we need to have standardized formats in our documents and records. We need to have a document creation, unique identification code of our documents, review and approval process, document use and maintenance, change control, record archiving and storage, and record retention and destruction. So you could assign a document custodian to do this. Mind you po, madaming documents and records ang ating laboratories, and it is very challenging to handle. Most especially, we need to secure that updated po lahat ng ating documents and that complete din po ang ating records. So it is a good practice that you assign a document custodian for this responsibility, and that is to oversee our documents and records management. So documents should be controlled and managed, since processes can become inconsistent and unreliable if documents are not up to date or at the site where they are needed. Again, you need to give each document a unique identification, name your documents in a logical, structured, and meaningful manner, and develop a standard type and have someone who is responsible to check on each document. So say for example, sa amin, sa aming mga training documents, ang in charge po doon is ang training officer. Sa ICWAS documents namin, ang in charge to oversee is the ICWAS officer. And for our confirmatory documents, ang in charge naman po ay aming technical supervisor. So at least there is someone who oversees and checks on the update and the function of your document para ma-ensure natin that it is still a reliable document, no? It is up to date. And in terms of records naman po, a quality record is any record that relates to any part of the manufacturing process. Records must provide evidence, that is to show that our standards have been met, and that records must provide traceability. We can trace who, what, when, where, and how the record was written, and that storage must maintain integrity for a required period for our records. And this is a good thing to follow, no? Etong ALCOA, make sure that your records are ALCOA. A for attributable, meaning traceable to a date, person, and subject. Legible, clear enough to read. Contemporaneous, recorded as it happened. Original refers to the first place the data is recorded. And accurate, data are correct, truthful, complete, and valid. So make sure you store the original data. If there is a transfer from the original data to another logbook, for that matter, then make sure that this is the true, correct, and copied correctly. So this must be evident in a verification. So dapat may magdo-double check. So every time there is a transfer from one source of data to another, there should be a means of a verification that you have controlled, no? And yung picture po dito, blurred lang for data privacy purposes, but it shows actually a manual record that is very comprehensive, and following ALCOA and verification is evident. So manual siya, copied from other source, but there is a complete verification noted by another technician that signed, and also the one who copied the result signed then as well. Make sure that all your records are completely and accurately filled up. Yan, may mga kulang dito, no? If there are alterations, make sure that this is traceable to the original data and to the personnel who made the alteration. So, one strike through and then sulat ang ating initials kapag merong alteration para matrace natin kung sino ang nag-alter and ano yung original data na inalter. Okay? So, in terms of information, we also need to manage information. Information, most especially electronic data, must ensure confidentiality and that unauthorized access is prevented. We need to have data integrity, a backup of our data, and have alternative systems in cases of lost data, para maiwasan natin yung loss, no? So we need to have alternate systems. Additional points for data management: always ensure confidentiality of donor and patient information. You can have standardized codes for this. Prevent unauthorized access, modification, or disposal of information. Have passwords and controlled access to your database. And always back up your data. This is very important. Risk control for potential damage of original data source. And for facilities where processing and testing of samples, this must ensure quality and safety. So facilities must have minimal health and safety risks. The design and space allocations must be good and following the standards. It must be clean. You have a clean work environment, controlled environment that includes your lighting, your temperature, and communication and information management systems must be in place then sa inyong facilities. You must have a good storage facilities. You must have as well health and safety programs, hazard discards, and emergency preparedness. So in terms of biosafety, new WHO standards was released on December 21, 2020. This standard is now more focused on people and less focused on buildings. So biosafety level no longer exists in the level 4 but replaced by core heightened control measures and maximum containment. So for the question if we can work safely in a resource-limited lab? The answer is yes. And according to this new standard, BSL-2 and BSL-2 practices are the minimum requirement as long as risk assessment is performed and assessed. And we also need to manage our equipment. So equipment must have proper selection and acquisition. You need to have your equipment with unique identification codes, verification of its performance. You have installation, operational, and performance qualification. And of course, updated calibration, preventive maintenance and repairs. And if your equipment would retire na, you also have a program for retirement, how you would dispose this, no? And make sure to have records of training and orientation of operation of our critical equipment for our technical staff. Make sure that critical equipment are cleaned, maintained, calibrated, and serviced regularly. Maintenance and calibration depends on our manufacturer. If not stated, this must be done at least annually. And if maintenance is contracted out, work should always be documented. So ensure that all of the maintenance is done, no? Like say for example sa picture na to, we are not supposed to see salt deposits dito sa may wash buffer air sa may probe washing area if the regular maintenance is done. Pero ayan, may mga salt deposits. Most probably, hindi po natin ginagawa yung ating mga weekly maintenance dito, no? Just, the technician just click on it lang. So, make sure that we do our maintenance correctly. Okay, keep records of maintenance and ensure that these are properly and correctly done. Monitor this and ensure that you can trace your equipment easily and its updated calibration. So you have identifiers for your equipment. And here is a sample database which we use for us to keep track of our equipment calibration and maintenance, which is handled by our equipment custodian. And for calibration, ensure that calibration records show proof that the equipment is functioning according to its required calibration. So take note sa ating calibration certificates kung pasok ba sa calibration requirement natin ang nakasulat sa calibration certificate. Okay? Also, temperature monitoring of equipment and environment must be recorded, and if there are any deviations, this must be corrected and recorded then, and that root cause must be addressed. So makikita nyo dyan, yung sa form lang namin sa TTA-NRL, maliit lang yung remark side kasi minsan lang din naman nangyayari. So yan, makikita ko may deviance from the standard, we take note of the issue and try to resolve it. Okay, next we go for materials and supplies. So make sure materials are managed well. Ensure records are maintained, such as having a supplier qualification, qualifying materials needed, you have agreement reviews, inventory management, adequate storage conditions, and receipt inspection and testing. And make sure that your reagents can be easily traced, no? So laboratory reagents intended for prolonged use should be marked with preparation date, expiry date, specific storage conditions, and the signature of the person who prepared them. Reagents handling must show traceability, indicate the date you first opened the common use reagents. This can be of value when you try to troubleshoot out of QC runs. Baka may problema na sa ating reagents and how it's being handled and when was it last opened, no? Reagents must be calibrated and must be valid and not expired when used. Instructions for use and storage should be followed. So temperature monitoring is also very critical for our blood products and functioning equipment and materials. We need to monitor also our room temperature where our machines and materials is. Um, this must secure that the temperature required by what is inside the room is maintained. So for example, if you store your platelets or reagents at room temp, make sure na dapat yung reagents na yon ay nasa room temp na correct range, no? So, make sure what you store in the room could provide the temperature that is required for whatever you store in that room. So we go for blood manufacture. We also would like to check on blood manufacture. Blood products are essential medicines, and being such, these products must have evidence on efficacy and safety when produced and used. So we need to have to abide GMP in our blood manufacture. So first, in assuring safety of the blood supply is our donation, selection, and collection. To minimize risk of TTI, we need to have strategies such as good identification procedures for our donors. The donor questionnaire must be completed by the donor, and you must follow the donor questionnaire. That is a minimum template na gamit is yung sa NVBSP, and that the donor is assessed by a trained staff. So, eto no, trained dapat ang ating donor interviewer. And this must be done in a confidential area using documented acceptance criteria. And you need to handle blood packs in clean surfaces, and the collection, do proper labeling of bags and samples at the bedside to avoid switching. Do mixing, weighing, and take note of the timing of donation. Very important po yan sa processing. Seal and strip tubing as quickly as possible, and collect and mix samples as quickly as possible. We also have the Confidential Unit Exclusion or CUE. Ito ay kasama dapat sa inyong donors forms at ibibigay po siya sa donor after donation. Para kapag sa tingin nila they were not confident with their answer sa donor interview, they could always go back and have a contact info of the BSF so that they can retract their donation. So, dapat po naibigay ito sa mga donors, pero napansin namin yung ibang BSF, nag-sign nga po yung donors, pero naiwan pa rin itong CUE sa form ng BSF. So, it defeats the purpose. So, parang naging compliance lang siya for having a CUE. But, it defeats the purpose. Hindi din natin siya nabibigay sa BSF. So, make sure the CUE is used correctly. Okay, so processing is very important during manufacturing. Dapat controls on this step is strictly followed. We should ensure that components to be manufactured only from blood banks that are collected properly from eligible donors, collected within the required timelines, and transported in controlled and validated conditions. So very important ang pag-control natin sa during transport, no? So we need to monitor the temperature during transport as well. All work areas must be clean and free of other materials or paperwork before processing. Make sure that there is validated processes, materials, and equipment, use of closed system and heat sealers, management of reactive blood, and very much important, verification in every critical step is important. So here, this is an example no of for we can see verification. So makikita dyan na ang pagle-label ng blood bank, merong verification, dalawang technician ang nag-verify sa labeling that this is a non-reactive A positive platelet. And also dun sa result form, you can also see verification doon sa signatories. And next, for blood screening, GMP standards requires us to have selection of appropriate testing system. Kanina, we have discussed the policies on the criteria that we need to consider in choosing for our testing systems. So you need to follow what is set by the DOH guidelines. Secure handling samples and data and ensure that control in testing and that there is control also in post-analytical procedures. And we need to ensure correct interpretation of tests and follow up on the reactive results. And in terms of quality control, we need to also have QC for reagents, and this should be performed every batch run. You must record this, analyze, and act if there is deviances, and monitor your QC as well. Check for shifts and trends. So when doing Levy Jennings chart, look out for possible shifts and trends. Do not release out of control runs. You need to identify root causes for any out of control runs and troubleshoot them before proceeding to retesting a batch. Monitor these errors and have corrective actions to prevent them from happening again. We need to monitor shifts and trends as Westgard rules are not usually recommended for infectious disease testing. Although kasi Westgard rules is very much good for chemistry testing. Pagdating po kasi sa infectious disease testing, ang Westgard rules might be strict, so hindi nagtatali na. So it's just good for us to check on possible shifts and trends. But what's a good practice is if we could compare our running with other peer groups using an external controls, that's a good way to check on our QC. But for now, wala po kasi tayong means na ganon. So we just do internal QCs. So in terms of internal QC, again, check on possible shifts and trends. So for storage, packing, and transport, we need to focus on the security and identification of components. Segregate your quarantine components from release components. Different po ang ating spaces for or storage space for quarantine and for release na blood and even for reactive blood. But if kulang po ang ating storage space, make sure lang na it's properly designated ang space and properly labeled, and that the released components are clearly labeled. Make sure na you label your reactive blood in a way na makikita mo agad na reactive to, hindi na to mapupull out for release. Okay, so storage facilities should be validated, clean, and properly maintained at correct temperature. And also pala, in terms of blood bag labeling,
We must not do pre-labeling. Minsan kasi nakikita namin na diretso na naglalagay ng sticker na may non-reactive even though for quarantine pa ang blood. So make sure that you could differentiate your um, for blood na that is for screening, and then blood that is screened, and blood that is reactive. Okay? So also, as mentioned earlier, you must need to maintain correct temperature during transport. We need to record the temperature when you transport your samples, blood units most especially, from MBDs to your facilities. So make sure that you have proper number of ice packs that is able to maintain the temperature. So you need to have a temperature monitoring device to ensure that the temperature during transport is maintained. Okay? And lastly, it is important for us to have programs for quality management. So in terms of managing quality, according to AABB, the BSF should have organization structure and function, should have leadership roles and responsibilities, authorities and relationships. Quality representative, the BSF should have management review. So this is where issues in the institution or the BSF is being discussed and addressed by the management. You need to have conformance with requirements of standards, effective communication, and effective process improvement. For customer focus, we need to ensure what is our customer requirements and agreements, and we need to listen to the voice of the customer through getting customer feedback. And of course, we need to manage non-conforming events or occurrences. We need to detect deviations and non-conformances or occurrences. We need to check complaint files, adverse event reporting, investigate on this, and that we must have recorded immediate actions in cases of occurrences. And we need to monitor and assess quality indicators. We need to have internal and external assessments, our lab proficiency testing, and analyze the data on this. And lastly, for process improvement, we need to have identify opportunities for improvement, systems approach to continual improvement, root cause evaluation, corrective action and preventive action plans, and monitoring the effectiveness of our corrective action and preventive action plan. So all of this mostly gawa po ng ating QA officer. That is to oversee the program for quality assurance. So in terms of managing quality in our BSF, it is important to have regular assessments. And assessment, by definition, is a systematic examinations to learn where we are in terms of quality management and help us identify and measure gaps for improvement. So we can do assessment in our processes through having quality monitoring tools, through management of occurrences, and performance of audits. Okay, so as a quality monitoring tool, we can start by monitoring our blood safety indicators. We usually submit this report to the DOH. And from the data that we collect here, we could see our performance and look for opportunities for improvement if there is any. So I also saw this file from the internet, which is from the ISBT, and you can monitor this list of quality indicator in your blood establishments as well. You could check on the source written below. And also, it is very important for us to manage occurrences. Occurrences is any event that has a negative impact in the lab, and it may be an error, an accident, a complaint, or a discrepancy. And it is important for us to recognize and identify this, then investigate what happened and put into record what had happened. And after, we need to analyze our data to know the root cause and communicate this to all staff so that they will be aware of what happened and how to avoid this. It is also important to monitor our occurrences to know if our corrective action is effective or we need to strategize for a new one. So identify, investigate, and record. Here is an example of how we do this in TTI NRL. We let our staff report occurrences when identified, and we keep a database to track it. So then every 6 months, we analyze these occurrences by conducting continual quality improvement and setting priorities for those that need changes in our system if there is any. And we do this as a team in a way that all staff are made aware of our issues. But if an occurrence is a major one and needs immediate discussion, we call for a team CQI as needed. And the lead for this will be our quality assurance officer. And also, the QA officer monitors these occurrences every 6 months up to 1 year and report during strategic plans if we need to update our risk registries due to our occurrences. So makikita nyo dyan, gumagamit na kasi kami ngayon ng database, no? In the form of FileMaker, makikita kung yung monitoring part doon sa baba. So, in charge po ng monitoring is ang QA officer. Again, medyo madami pong ginagawa ang QA officer, so better na she is or he is excluded from the routine work. Okay, next is, as I've mentioned, we also need to identify risks present in the laboratory. So, ang risk po, these are potential quality issues that we need to proactively control to ensure the quality of our product. And in the context of the ISO, we are required to establish our scope, context of risk, and its criteria in order to perform our risk assessment. So, once risk is identified, it must be analyzed, evaluated, and treated if necessary. And we need to communicate this as well and monitor its control and treatment effectiveness. So ito po an example of a TTI previous risk assessment. So you can see here we have identified certain risks na pwedeng mag-lead to deviation sa aming quality, and after a team discussion, yung yellow and red risk ratings have high potential impact and possibility of occurrence. So this should be prioritized to be treated and managed. And at the same time, we monitor this, no? And kung eto kasi matagal, parang kailan pa namin to na risk, this is siguro 2018 pa. But now, if you would check our risk registers, naging green na yan, halos lahat ng yellow namin, most especially yung red kasi we're able to control. But it is important that annually, you monitor your risk registers para baka kasi may mga occurrences na nangyayari din, no? That when you monitor your occurrence reporting, pwede nating taasan yung risk so that mag-iba tayo, magre-strategize tayo. So, risk assessment is actually a requirement if you go for ISO certification. And risk assessment actually has another training. So, maganda sana if we could provide a training for BSF on this. Sige, I will take a look if we could be able to provide a training for this kasi very important. So, hopefully, we could share how you do risk assessments in terms of quality management. Kasi medyo mahirap din siya, skill din siya na gagawin. So, hopefully, we could have a separate session on this next training sessions. Okay? So, another requirement na hindi natin nagagawa in terms of GMP standards is the look-back investigation. So, GMP standard secures that we have obligations to provide safe blood and as well as ensuring safe donors. So, with this, GMP requires procedures for donor and or recipient-initiated lookbacks. So, by definition, lookbacks are to be carried out by blood establishments when they receive a report that a patient has been identified with TTI following a transfusion of blood product. So the investigation may necessitate retesting of archived samples kept by the BSF and or testing of follow-up blood sample from the original donor. Also, any unused blood components are traced back and recalled for further tests. So currently, we do not have a local guideline or protocol for look-back investigations as there are policies and additional resources to consider before implementing this. Kailangan po kasi ito ay on a national level, no? Kasi very critical and sensitive ito. So we must be protected by a certain policy. And also, additional resources would include having blood repositories where original testing samples be stored for future retesting. So, kailangan namang sample banking, and that would require additional refrigerators, no? And freezers. And maybe when the time comes that GMP will be fully pushed by the DOH, the program can set protocols for look back. Sa ngayon nga kasi, hindi pa tayo wala pang full guidelines ang FDA for our GMP. And if this is done, procedures should be well defined and must be designed in such a way that the transfusion chain of donor, blood product, and recipient can be unequivocally reconstructed. So the procedure should compromise notification and counseling action where indicated. So isa po ito sa mga findings ng WHO consultants that our National Blood Service program should look into. Okay, so ayan nga, from the data of WHO, ito ang distribution of countries with existing national hemovigilance systems, and as you can see, we have none in the Philippines, no? And we do hope that we can establish a national hemovigilance system through the DOH. But for now, you can take a look into the guide for hemovigilance by the WHO. You can easily download this from the internet. Okay, and lastly, it is important for us to conduct regular audits. And in audits, we run through your process and check compliance to a checklist from the standard and check your performance based on the criteria. If there are gaps observed, we are able to identify OFI and we need to take action to address this. And audits are performed against standards, and the standards must be relevant for the organization and the part of the organization being audited. So you can start by checking how you are performing against the criteria set by DOH licensing and the manual of standards, and after that you can check on the WHO GMP standards. I do challenge you to do this, most especially the quality assurance officers. Just do a self-laboratory assessment based on our standards and check how you are doing and set strategies to improve once you identify opportunities for improvement. So very important on assessing and checking our systems so to know where we are in terms of our quality. Okay? So as an exercise, we'll have a quick virtual audit activity. So we will be sharing to you some photos and that you will comment on it and provide some recommendations. So this is in the next learning block after this lecture. And I hope you enjoyed the quick auditing and you can identify many rooms for improvement. And hopefully we can also have a training din as well in some auditing skills din kasi auditing would actually require skill, not just a know-how of the standard. So hopefully we could share also a training for auditing and at the same time the risk assessment din, which is very important. And that's it for the lecture, and the reference for this lecture are the following. And as we always say, we hope that HIV and TTI testing proficient medtechs never get tired of advocating for quality and blood safety. So, after this, you'll have your virtual audit activity. And again, I hope you enjoyed that activity. Thank you po everyone, and I hope to see comments in the open forum and look forward to your answers to the virtual audit activity. Thank you po.